Today I'm going to teach you 5 easy comps to breeze through the ranks, including the game plan, best items, positioning tricks, and more. If you want to learn more about every new feature in Set 12, check out these videos down in the description below. Set 12 of Teamfight Tactics is live, so it's time to climb. Without further ado, let's go. Casserole is an incredibly powerful 2-cost reroll comp. We run 2 2-cost AP carries, Syndra and Cassiopeia. Syndra is an Eldritch Incanter whose ability permanently stacks. She summons a Rift onto her target, dealing magic damage and shredding 20% of their magic resist for 6 seconds. After she's casted 15 times in a game, enemies right next to her target will also take a little splash damage and get MR shredded. For every 30 casts she's stacked up, she will summon an additional Rift on a nearby enemy that will deal 35% of the damage the initial target takes. Our second carry is Cassiopeia, a Witchcraft Incanter. Casted's ability is super simple. For the next 6 seconds, attacks instead deal magic damage based on her ability power. Incanter gives your team ability power, and whenever Incanters attack or cast spells, they gain stacks of AP up to 40 for the rest of the fight. Ability casts give 3 AP, while every other auto attack gives 1. In the early game, play any opener, the best being AP with Shapeshifters, with Incanters if you hit them early. Of course, if you hit Syndras and Casses early, the game will go a lot smoother. Winning or lose streaking works, but losing early can help you secure high cost bows or rods in the early carousels. Here's the board you want to roll for on level 6. It's simply Cass and Syndra in the back, and 4 Shapeshifters in the front. Place tank items on Shyvana. If you don't end up hitting Shyvana 3 before Cassio and Syndra, you can eventually sell or remove items from Shyvana and move them to a better Shapeshifter tank, like Nasus, Swain, or Nico. At 7, you can add a random Eldritch unit or any extra Shapeshifter. At 8, swap out for 6 Shapeshifters, which will make your frontline extremely tanky. If you hit Briar, you will activate Eldritch with Elise and Syndra. At 9, add any legendary, for instance Smolder for the burn with Dragon, or Zereth for his Ascendant Charms. Next, let's talk about items. Because of Incanters and her infinite stacking, you want Syndra to cast as much as possible. The best combination for this is Spear of Shojin and Nashor's Tooth. This combination gives you lots of mana and attack speed, which both result in more Incanter and Syndra stacks. Her third item can be any AP, with Jeweled Gauntlet and Deathcap giving lots of damage, and Syndra is an excellent applier of anti-heal through Merlonomicon or Red Buff because of her AoE. Cassiopeia's best item combo is Double Rageblade. This gets your team Incanter stacks much quicker and deals tons of damage with her AP skilled attacks. Third item can be any AP, with Gunblade being very strong. Your tank item should be whatever you can make from the leftovers. Best in slot for any Shapeshifters are going to be items that scale well with max HP, namely Redemption and Dragon's Claw. Third item can be anything, with Stoneplate being very strong. This comp functions well with most combat augments, especially AP and attack speed ones. Pumping up, Learning to Spell, Defensive Arts, Anger Issues, and Blossoming Lotus are very strong. Eternal Growth is probably the best augment for this comp, as a strong frontline is what you need to let your carries stack up. 2 Healthy and Lucky Gloves are also great for this purpose. Reroll augments like March of Progress and Prismatic Ticket are solid too. Items that give components are good, as you need a lot, making Component Buffet and even Pandora's pretty solid. I actually don't think Incanter or Shapeshifter crests are worth it, as they're very awkward to fit in on level 6 and 8. Let's talk about some positioning tricks. If possible, we want to place Syndra in the middle and Cassiopeia 1 or 2 hexes away. This is because Syndra's stacked passive allows her to hit adjacent enemies, and having her target the middle units first means you're more likely to hit multiple frontline units at a time, also shredding for Cassio. Frontline can be lined up in the front, as this gets you max value out of your redemption and makes it more likely for their frontline to clump up against yours, giving Syndra more targets. If you're positioning against this comp, try to isolate your frontline to avoid splash damage from Syndra and match your strongest tank against her to minimize frontline deaths. This can also draw the Shapeshifters away from the redemption. Looking at variations, I wouldn't suggest doing more than 2 Incanters. However, your frontline can be any strong stall comp. For example, I've had lots of success with 6 Bastions and Nunu's Sweet Tooth hero augments. The best case scenario is if you can get lots of good items from portals, specifically loaded carousels and Anvil Buffet.
Mage Veigar is a 3-cost reroll AP comp. Our main carry is Veigar, a Honeymancy mage. His passive gives him 3 ability power for every charm you buy throughout the game. His active ability throws an orb, simply dealing a ton of single target magic damage, scaling with his ability power. Our main tank is Vex, a Chrono mage. Her ability gives herself a shield for 4 seconds, scaling with AP and increased by 5% for each enemy targeting her. Once the shield expires, she deals magic damage to all enemies within 2 hexes. The mage trait modifies your mage's AP, but causes their abilities to cast twice instead of once. In the early game, play any opener and place items on whoever you have 2-starred. This example board plays 3 mage, and if both are 2-starred, Soraka is better than Seraphine with carry items due to her healing. You can lose streak to guarantee tears or rods on carousel, and save up lots of money so we can buy charms later. Pick up any charms you see along the way, and level to 6 at 3-2. Once you find Veigar, plug in his Honeymancy friends for frontline, and once you find Vex, you can play 5 mage. Then save up money to get to 7 and start slow rolling for copies and charms, keeping your interest up. This is the board we roll at level 7 to hit 3-star Vex and Veigar. We play 5 5 mages, Syndra for MR Shred if we don't have Spark, and Mordekaiser to activate Eldritch and Vanguard for more frontline. While you roll down, try to hold on to a Taric and a Tahm Kench if it doesn't cost you too much interest. This is so that at level 8, we can drop Syndra and Mordekaiser once we have MR Shred, and then add in Taric, Tahm Kench, and Hecarim for a stronger frontline. Place the Arcana Signifier on Tahm, which grants your team bonus HP. At level 9, place in Xerath once you hit him, and swap the Arcana Signifier onto him. Xerath's bonus makes your team's abilities deal bonus true damage for every 3 charms you've purchased this game. This scales incredibly well with Veigar's ability, already wanting you to buy charms, and adds a ton of extra damage. By playing Xerath, you also gain access to the extremely powerful Ascendant charm. Check out my latest video in the description to find out what they do. Replacing Soraka with Nora as soon as you hit her, activating Portal. She comes along with Yuumi, who you should bind to Veigar by clicking and dragging Yuumi onto him. This will heal and buff up Veigar's AP throughout the fight. Moving on to items. Veigar's best items are blue buff plus Spear of Shojin or Nashor's Tooth, letting him cast as much as possible since his AP is already so high from his passive. The third item can be any AP, with Jeweled Gauntlet being my favorite. Vex's best item is Gargoyle Stoneplate since it synergizes well with her passive. Next, we want an Ionic Spark on her. We prefer Spark over Shiv because Veigar with blue buff will instantly cast at the start of the fight. The Shred from Spark immediately takes effect, while the Shiv Shred takes 3 auto attacks to proc, meaning we wouldn't get MR Shred for Veigar's first round of casts. Her third item can be any tank, especially another Stoneplate or Steadfast Heart, which works well with her shielding. Nami is a great applier of anti-heal through red buff or Morello. Free reroll augments like Prismatic Ticket are extremely powerful. This is because of a new change in set 12 where all free rerolls received can be held permanently, while before they would disappear after the round. This will help you get rolls off to buy charms every round much easier. Combat augments that buff your frontline like Immovable Object and Giant and Mighty are great, while Spellblades will give you a ton of damage, and Blossoming Lotus will let you build another item instead of Jeweled Gauntlet on Veigar. Finally, Life Point and Econ augments are solid, as getting to 3-star Vex and Veigar is already extremely strong. Looking at positioning, Vex should solo center frontline to draw aggro for her passive. Veigar can be in either corner, as long as whatever source of MR Shred is against his target. So if you're playing Syndra, place her 2 hexes to the side of Veigar. Galio has a positioning trick. His ability stuns the furthest enemy within 3 hexes, so you want to place him on the same side as the opponent's backline carry, as every stun counts. Taric's ability saps projectiles in a 1-hex circle around him, so place him next to but behind Vex to help her tank. Nami should be in the corner opposite of the opponent's carry, so that she can hit them with a wave, also stunning them. When positioning against Veigar, you can place your strongest frontline directly against Vex, and your others on the front corners, so that she benefits less from her passive and Stoneplate. Do your best to dodge Galio and Nami CC. If you're playing a melee carry, place them far away from Veigar as he can and will one-shot you. Considering the game plan, an important part to note is that Veigar scales with each charm bought. Before stage 5, charms appear every 3 shops, and every 2 after stage 5. To maximize your money and AP on Veigar, once you hit level 7 with at least 30 gold, or preferably 50, roll until you get a charm every round, and then buy it. Then stop rolling to save money for the next round. Keep doing this until you 3-star Veigar and Vex, giving you maximum AP from charms purchased. Bastion Kalista is a 4-cost 80 carry comp. Kalista is a 4-cost fairy multi-striker whose attacks embed spears into her target and nearby enemies. When she casts, she rips the spears out, dealing physical damage for each spear. In the early game, play any opener, with Ashe being a great Rageblade holder. You can play any combination of multi-strikers, Eldritch, and Shapeshifter with the Ashe carry through level 6 up to 8. You can also play Fairy Tristana with any frontline, building up 4 Fairy and Bastions until you hit Kalista. This is a fast 8 comp where we play 4 Bastion for frontline, and both 3 multi-striker and 4 Fairy, with the Fairy Crown item buffing Kalista. We can cap out at level 9 by replacing trait bots with legendaries and adding Zillion for Chrono Preserver, or Xerath for his true damage bonus and charms. As a variation, you can play 6 Fairy with an emblem at 9, placing the emblem on Diana for HP, and the Queen Guard's armor on Rakan, as it's only good on units with healing or shielding. For items, your biggest priority is 2 Rageblades on Kalista, which gives her ability tons of damage. The third item will always be the Fairy Crown, giving her damage amp. Tank items go on Taric. Since Bastion already gives him lots of resistances, we elect for health items like Redemption and Warmogs instead. You can also place Sunfire on him or Rakan for anti-heal. Rakan should get an Even Shroud to provide armor shred for Kalista. Leftover items should be mana and attack speed items for Milio, as he will print items and damage amp for the rest of your team with every cast. For augments, combat augments that buff up front lines, especially with HP and shields, are amazing for Bastions, as we just want to stall for Kalista to ramp up. Attack speed augments like Fast Forward, Pumping Up, and Anger Issues work well, supplying us with Rage Blades. Most combat augments are good with this comp. Let's talk positioning. Line up your Bastions and place your best units around Rakan so they are in his shielding range of 2 hexes. Use Taric's ability to keep Rakan and Diana alive as long as possible. Align Kalista in the corner with Rakan if he has Even Shroud to use the armor shred. The best case scenario is for Kalista to be attacking the weaker frontline first, as killing more frontline raises her chance of embedding spears onto the backline with her passive. Place Milio next to Kalista and your stronger units so they get items and buffs first. Move Xerath away if he's 1-star and closer if he's 2-star. When playing against Bastion Kalista, place your strongest tank directly against her to stall out. You can try solo frontlining and hard cornering your other frontlines to split up the Bastions, which will make Taric's zone weaker. Blaster Varus is another 4-cost 80 carry comp. Varus is a Pyro Blaster whose ability ability charges up and fires a supernova, dealing damage twice in a circular nuke. In the early game, play any AD opener. A strong one is Dragon Hunters with items on Namzi. Make sure you place Twitch right next to Namzi as his ability shreds armor. Slowly add Frost and Shapeshifters until you hit Varus, and then pivot over to Pyroblasters. There are many variations to build around Varus at level 8, with the simplest being a 4 Shapeshifter frontline with 4 blasters for damage. Once we hit them, we can replace Tristana with Smolder, activating Dragon for anti-heal with Shyvana, and Briar for Nico. At level 9, we can add Diana for 3 Frost and healing. The stronger version of this comp unlocks when you have a Pyro emblem, as you can play 5 Pyros, increasing your enemy execute threshold. We play 5 Pyro as soon as we can, along with 4 blasters. Swap Smolder for Tristana and place Pyro emblem on him, and add a Diana in at level 9. Let's talk about items. Varus first needs Armor Shred, and Last Whisper is great on him for the crit chance, and the fact that his ability hits a circle of people. His next best item is Infinity Edge, as most of his damage is from his ability. Finally, Shojin helps him get the most casts off, while Red Buff can apply anti-heal before Smolder. Nasus can take any tank items, but the best items for Shapeshifters are Gargoyles, Redemption, and Dragon Claw. Smolder takes leftovers and is great with more attack speed and any AD items. For augments, Pyro Emblem significantly increases this comp's power. You only need one. General combat augments are good, and econ augments can help you reach Smolder faster. Positioning in this comp is pretty lax. Place Nasus solo in the front line, with Diana and Shen to his left and right. Shen stuns his nearest 3 enemies, so place him on the side of the enemy's most powerful frontliners. Varus should go in either corner, preferably against the biggest clump of enemies. Smolder can go anywhere in the back row since he flies around anyway. Against Varus, you can try to split up your frontline to avoid the 1 hex AoE damage from Varus' ability. Chrono Karma is a 4-cost AP carry comp. Karma is a Chrono incanter whose ability attaches a poisonous rift to our target and the closest unaffected enemy, dealing magic damage over 6 seconds. The duration of all rifts is always reset up to 6 every time someone gets affected by the ability. If the enemy dies while under the poison, they explode, healing karmas in nearby enemies for 8% of their max health. Early game, you can play any AP opener going for a blue buff. You can carry Syndra along with Cassio as a powerful item holder all the way up to 7 or 8 once you hit Karma. Swap in Karma for Syndra and play whichever pair of units you find on the level 8 roll down. This comp's strength lies in its flexibility. We always play 4 Chronos with Rakan as our main tank and add Cassio for 2 Incanter along with Karma. We can then play her with a duo carry and many pair variations. You can add Ryze and Taric for Scholar, Nami and a Mage, Kalista and Hecarim for multi-striker, Arcanas for Xerath, you name it. Level 9 boards will generally always have Camille replace a Chrono and Morgana as a Witchcraft Preserver. Onto items. Karma's first best in slot is blue buff, as she has 30 base mana. Next, you want either Shojin or Nashor's for more mana generation. Third, you want red buff or Morello for anti-heal and burn damage, since she eventually afflicts the entire enemy team. Getting her to cast as much as possible is actually the way to maximize her damage, since every cast applies to both the target and a new unaffected enemy. You need a source of MR Shred, whether it be Spark on Rakan or a Shiv on your secondary carry, Zillion, or Morgana. Rakan can take any tank items, with Stoneplate and high resistance items being best because of his shielding. For positioning, place Rakan in the middle to maximize his shield and spark value, and solo frontline if you have Stoneplate. Karma first prefers to be on the side with the weakest enemy frontliners, then prefers being on the same side as the enemy carry for the best chance to spread. Zillion's ability stuns his single target, so align him against their frontliner with the strongest ability. In this build, Camille is fairly squishy. Let her walk up from the second row onto the same side as the enemy carry to maximize stun and damage chance. For positioning against Karma, try to solo frontline your strongest tank against her. Camille will always hook onto the lowest percent health enemy within 3 hexes, so try to keep your primary carry isolated in a corner away from Camille, and put bait units clumped on the other side. I need to add a section for Camille items, by the way. Sorry about that. It's gonna be... Oh, nah, okay, who cares? No one's hitting that shit anyway. Okay, I'm gonna sleep. God bless your heart and soul. Goodbye.